Good morning. Our gospel reading this morning tells us about a star, a special star, that Christmas star that brought the wise men to the manger of baby Jesus on Epiphany tomorrow, January 6th. No one is really sure what that actual Christmas star was. There is lots of speculation, and you can spend hours on the internet. Perhaps some of our planets were perfectly aligned and seemed to stop as they passed one another, or maybe a supernova, or even a comet. Really, I think the best answer to what was our Christmas star is that only God knows. Only He who is outside of time could have set a heavenly star. What we do know is that at the birth of Jesus Christ, this magnificent star appeared in the sky over Bethlehem, and 3 wise men from the east dropped everything to follow it. As far as we know, they were not the self-centered sort. We hear no rumor of a whining comment like, "It's a long way and we don't know where we're going." Think of long nights on the desert. What if the star never stops moving? Then what? My camel gets tired. I get tired. I don't even know what we'll find. We can't possibly carry enough food or water, precious water. But as far as we know, they didn't whine, they didn't bicker. They packed up their camels and they followed a star. Prophets had long foretold a world-changing arrival. Our travelers had been waiting their whole lives for this moment. From Jeremiah, we hear that Israel's people will be saved. Isaiah had promised a light for all mankind, and our song has promised, "Happy are those whose hearts are set on the pilgrim's way." These travelers, these star scholars, our 3 wise men, were seeking a Messiah, and they found him in Bethlehem, a child born in utterly, unimaginably humble conditions, so unexpected, but with such fanfare. Prophecy proclaimed this baby the Prince of Peace, and his birth announcement was made by angels and a fabulous star. No simple reveal cake full of blue M&Ms for this little babe. 2,000 years later, we are still following the teachings of this humbly born Son of God. Jesus' message was indeed a light in the darkness that leads us still. If only we can just get outside of ourselves, and as Paul spoke to the Ephesians, know the hope to which we have been called, and the immeasurable greatness of his power for us who believe. What does that star mean today? An epiphany is a life-changing realization that changes the rest of our story. That epiphany changed the course of hopes and dreams for all those people who would follow Jesus to the promise of God's kingdom here on earth. What an extraordinary gift God gave us on that Christmas so long ago, his son Jesus, and then put a bow on it, a glorious star. That star is the beginning of Christianity, the first call to follow Jesus. You don't follow an epiphany star to your belly button. We need to reach out beyond ourselves and out to that star. An epiphany is that light bulb idea or happening that can change your life. And we need to find the glimmer, the still shimmer of that message that surrounds us. How can we keep his light burning? How can we make that epiphany our epiphany today? And isn't that the message and the task at hand? And how do we keep our star of hope and wonder alight today in a world that knows so much hopelessness and despair? When we look at Jesus' life, it is a life of such richness. It's impossible to contain. But I'm thinking thinking of 3 directions to follow that I think will help me keep that light, his light, alive. First, we see faith, simple faith, a reaching out to God, the kind of faith that walks on water, the kind of faith that survives 40 days in the wilderness, the kind of faith that feeds 5,000 from a handful of fish, faith that can raise the dead, faith that can do anything. I was taught by one of my preachers when I was a little girl that I could do all those things Jesus did if I could only align my heart with God's perfect purpose for me. In other words, I could move mountains. In these years, I no longer know if I really believe, at least in my physical abilities, that strongly. But I do know that fear is the opposite of faith. Fear is the darkness that keeps us from achieving our hopes. Fear of failure, fear of appearing foolish, maybe of financial difficulty, fear of our future, or of that misdirected first step. Fear, it pops out at us from the darkness. I can ruin the joyful anticipation of my children's visits with fear for their safety as they travel home. I need to put a cork in those moments of fear and all the others like them, and just embrace the joy that is our collective journey with simple faith. We need to leave behind despair and fear and bring our hopes and our faith out into the light and simply be the light of faith. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Second, we see healing. Jesus cared so deeply for others. He's never indifferent. We see him healing everywhere he goes. He heals Jairus' daughter, and the blind man, and the leper, and the possessed, and the woman who has hemorrhaged for so many years, and that ultimate healing of his dear departed friend, Lazarus. And he heals wrongs. We see him deeply involved in the righting of social injustices, such as his extreme anger at those money changers. And again, he restates our mission. Lift up the fallen, feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, care for the sick, visit the prisoners, and speak for the voiceless. There is pain in our world, some physical or personal, political and social. How do we lift our lights to help on so many fronts? Maybe it's enough to know that we are easing the pain of those in our corner of the world. We can lighten the burden of those who are hurting with a kind gesture or word. We can worry injustice with petitions and political awareness. We can ease difficulty for those whose lives are hard by listening, just listening, and trying to find ways to help. We can deal with our own pains by knowing that we are never, ever really alone. We can lift our lights high enough to see the troubles of those around us and lend a hand. Lift the light of healing. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And finally, you all know, most importantly, Jesus' message was love. It's the great commandment he leaves with us. Love God, love one another, and don't forget to love yourselves. The opposite of love is hate. And I think about how casually we use the word hate in our daily life. I hear my students define themselves by their declared hates. They hate math. They really hate math. They hate cold. They hate writing essays. They hate fingernails on a blackboard. They hate kids from Colorado, those weed-soaked greenies. They hate Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Really? Hatred for the tiny little helpless green cabbages? Hate is a strong word. Oh my, and we almost embrace it. What's wrong with us? We should be defined by what we love. We're here to embrace the love, not the hate. There are people in my family that I'm not real fond of. Maybe you have some. And I find it difficult to break bread with them sometimes. But Jesus broke bread with Judas, knowing what was about to happen, and even washed his feet. Jesus knew how to love, and that's a light we need to hold up in the darkness that sometimes surrounds us. We need to love the people we know we can all be, God's children, with God's purpose in our heart. The light of love. This little light of mine, I'm gonna make it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. We're gonna need to practice to do this Jesus work, the work of faith and healing and love. I've just rewatched 2 kids' movies, Incredibles 1 and 2, over vacation, and also seen the new Star Wars. And in all of them, we see superheroes who must practice their skills. The Incredibles are cartoon characters who have superpowers that are hidden from the world. And maybe we do too. When 2 Incredibles, the bulky Mr. Incredible, and his sweet squeeze, Elastigirl, decide to get married and start a family, they tell their children to hide their superhero talents at all costs, lest those kids be singled out for being different. Of course it doesn't turn out well. When our little force field girl first tries to create a bubble of protection for the good guys, she is left sitting with a ball of translucent, purple, useless mess. Her skills are innate, but they must be practiced and honed. And even for Jesus, I think that first trial gave him pause. At the wedding in Cana, we see his mother on the sidelines whispering and urging him, "Show your stuff." Even Jesus was reluctant to start. We may well find our first efforts resulting in a virtual reward of purple mess in our laps. But it's our job to try, to light those corners of the world where we can. On this eve of Epiphany, think about bringing your lights out into the open of the world. I read last night someone's description. Those wise men, they journeyed in noble abandon. And so should we, as we journey to our very best selves. It's the light of Christ that we need to help bring into our world. The universe isn't just interested in our achievements. Its greatest concern is with our hearts. When we act out of kindness and love, we're aligned with our true purpose, bringing the kingdom of God to our life, to the light, and today. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to stand as you are able.